The head of the Verkhovna Rada, Ruslan Stefanchuk, greeted Kidawa-Błońska outside the Ukrainian parliament building. Poland remains a staunch supporter of Ukraine, determined to continue providing military and humanitarian assistance. Today, we are beginning official talks on the bilateral security agreement between Ukraine and Poland, and we would like this agreement to be as ambitious as possible. We all understand that the war in Ukraine has entered a difficult phase. That's why we are convinced that only good coordination of political initiatives undertaken by individual governments and parliaments is crucial for maintaining international support, which is very much needed. We must maintain the readiness of the European states and the whole democratic Western world to support Ukraine, first and foremost by delivering adequate armaments, which I hope will allow Ukraine to repel the Russian attack completely. Stefanchuk thanked Kidawa-Błońska and the Polish Senate for supporting President Volodymyr Zelensky's peace formula and Poland's participation in the Peace Summit to be held in Switzerland from June 15th to 16th this year. Relations between Poland and Ukraine deteriorated last year during protests by Polish farmers and truckers, hampering their critical wartime alliance. Warsaw and Kiev have been at odds over Ukrainian grain exports to Poland and the rest of the European Union. According to the head of the government in Paris, the burden of the Migration Pact will mainly affect the Eastern European region, and therefore Poland as well. So in the context of these words, how to understand the words of the Polish Prime Minister, who already after the adoption of the Migration Pact by the Council of the European Union, claimed that Poland will not accept any migrants from the Migration Pact, or that we will not have to pay for anything. In the exposé, Donald Tusk assured, "I really won't be ripped off by anyone in the European Union." The adoption of the Migration Pact was presented by the Polish Prime Minister as recently as 10 days ago as a success. Poland will be a beneficiary of the Migration Pact. Poland will not accept any migrants from this Migration Pact. This is different from what the French Prime Minister is saying, pointing out that Eastern European countries that until now have not accepted migrants have now signed documents that oblige them to accept illegal foreign arrivals.
Mamy więc solidarność w przyjmowaniu migrantów, ale ta solidarność to nie jest Francja i francuskie miejscowości, jak pan mówi. Będzie to dotyczyć przede wszystkim krajów Europy Wschodniej, które dzisiaj odmawiają przyjmowania wniosków o azyl. Czy zdaje sobie pan sprawę, że udało nam się wymusić, aby te kraje podpisały porozumienie, które mówią, że albo ich przyjmą tak jak robią to Francja, Włochy i Hiszpania, albo wniosą wkład finansowy w celu obrony granicy zewnętrznej.
The French Prime Minister completely contradicts the narrative that Donald Tusk is instilling in Polish people.
Nie będziemy za nic płacić.
We will not have to pay for anything. We will not have to accept any migrants from other directions. The European Union will not impose any migrant quotas on us. Well, no. According to French Prime Minister Gabriel Attal, the signed agreement includes an obligation for all countries to take in illegal migrants or pay fines for them, especially Eastern European countries that have not done so far. That includes Poland. I don't think anyone is under any illusion that the idea was to make Poland drink the beer that the Germans, French, or Spaniards had brewed by accepting illegal immigrants. And that's why Brussels was so heavily involved in Poland's electoral process, so that Donald Tusk would become Prime Minister of Poland, and so that he would push this kind of thing through as governor of Brussels and Berlin. The head of the Polish government clearly has memory problems, or he is making Polish people idiots. At the end of the day, it's a good thing that this barrier was built in 2021? Yes, but I didn't question that. No, not at all. But on Neo TVP, a female employee of the illegally seized TV station didn't dare remind Tusk of his own statements about the barrier on the border with Belarus. We will not support them in such, to put it mildly, ambiguous ventures. They are making some hideous spectacle, a hideous hunt for these children and mothers. They will put up a wall and a fence fence and another wall, and preferably also have electricity hooked up to it. Donald Tusk hopes Poles have memory problems and remembers vividly that the Civic Platform voted against a bill to build a barrier on the border with Belarus. I remember the huge number of arguments that Civic Platform deputies made against the construction. They said that this was not the way to go and that it would be a problem for the ecology. Now, these embarrassing statements from the past, as well as the documents about taking in illegal migrants, Tusk would love to remove. In other media, he gets away with it. On TV Republika, it will not pass. And often, only with us will you learn about key decisions for our country that the new government is making, often dangerous to Poland's national security. Adrian Borecki, TV Republika. Today, finance ministers and officials from the Group of 7 rich democracies opened a 2-day meeting on the shores of northern Italy's scenic Lago Maggiore. U.S. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen is pushing at the meeting in Strisa for more ambitious options to unlock money from some $260 billion in Russian central bank reserves, frozen in Europe and the U.S., following the February 24, 2022 invasion of Ukraine. Aid for Ukraine has become more urgent as Kiev's finances look shakier against the prospect that the conflict will last through next year and beyond, and as Russia steps up its destruction of civilian infrastructure, such as power stations. The U.S. Congress has passed legislation allowing the Biden administration to seize roughly $5 billion in Russian assets located in the U.S., but most of the funds are in Europe. Citing legal concerns, European officials have balked at outright confiscating the money and handing it to Ukraine as compensation for the destruction caused by Russia. Instead, they plan to use the interest accumulating on the assets, but that's only around $3 billion a year, about 1 month's financing needs for the Ukrainian government. Proposals include borrowing against the future interest income from the frozen assets, so that Ukraine could be given as much as $50 billion immediately. Ukraine spends almost all its tax revenue on the military and needs another $40 billion a year to continue paying pensions and the salaries of doctors, nurses, and teachers. Support from allies and a $15.4 billion loan from the International Monetary Fund was initially thought to have secured the budget for 4 years, but the prospects of an extended conflict have darkened the outlook for next year. Yellen has also called for a clear united front against China's state subsidies for manufacturing of solar panels, semiconductors, and electric cars, saying that China's production capacity exceeds the needs not only of China, but of the global economy as a whole, and threatens the existence of competing companies in both Group of 7 and developing countries. Ahead of the meeting, Yellen said that countries needed to take a common stance so that China's leaders understand that they face a wall of opposition to this strategy that they are pursuing. The finance ministers are working to set up final decisions at the summit of G7 leaders that will take place on June 13th to 15th in Fassano in southern Italy's Puglia region. The 2021 consensus shows that more than 70% of Polish people consider themselves Catholics. Therefore, any blows aimed at the church must be delivered in velvet gloves. Some politicians, however, lack subtlety. As the classic said, religion is like a certain male organ. It's quite all right if someone has it and is proud of it, but if he pulls it out and waves it in front of our noses, then we already have a certain problem. Thank you sincerely. That was lousy. Although Włodzimierz Czarzasty didn't like the form of the coalition partner's speech, the meaning of the statement was probably not objectionable. Left-wing politicians have just announced the end of the soft game with priests and sent an interpellation to the Prime Minister regarding the sources of funding for the Catholic Church in Poland. I want to say, the soft game with the clergy is coming to an end. I say this on behalf of the left. It is important to take down or not to take down the crosses, but I think it is necessary to take on the source of evil. The source of evil is the way of financing the clergy. And so, step by step, the policy announced several years ago by Sławomir Nitras of the Civic Platform is to be implemented. We have to take away certain privileges, for the reason that if we don't, you will raise your heads again if anything changes. One gets the impression that a bidding war for anti-clerical stances has begun in the ruling coalition. A few days ago, Civic Platform deputy leader and Warsaw president Rafał Trzaskowski decided to remove crosses from city offices. After the elections, once the voters have cast their vote, he shows his true face, that of an extreme radical leftist who seeks to change Poland. That is, he wants to remove a certain consensus that is in place in Poland and replace it with a new vision in which there is no religion, in which crosses are expelled from public space, in which one cannot talk about religion or commitment to traditional values. Defending Christian values is one of the elements of the program of law and justice ahead of the European parliamentary elections. Today, an action in defense of the cross was inaugurated in front of the Holy Cross Shrine. MP Anna Krupka recalled that in the Lublin provincial office, the cross was taken down by the new Civic Platform governor, Krzysztof Komorski. Today, we stand up for the values that have shaped our national identity, but also our European identity. The candidate in the European parliamentary elections appealed to Szymon Hołownia to urgently proceed with a resolution to defend the cross. The marshal of the same Hołownia decided to send the project back to the Administration and Interior Affairs Committee for work. Maciej Struk, TV Republika. The symbol of Australia, the famous Sydney Opera House lit up with thousands of colors and lights. Moving images were projected on the building, and this magical show was watched by thousands of people. Australia's biggest festival of light, Vivid Sydney, started with fireworks over Sydney's Opera House and light installations on Friday, May 24th, as it returned for its 14th year. The Opera House was illuminated by artist Julia Gutman's retelling of the myth of Narcissus, animated using scrap fabric. The faces of climate activists from the Torres Strait Islands, which sit between Australia and Papua New Guinea, were projected onto Sydney Harbour Bridge pylons, courtesy of Tori Jane Morty's artwork.
This is my second time to witness the Vivid Sydney here in Sydney, which is the very elegant and very spectacular, which is I ever seen in my life.
Yeah, I love that. It's so alive. Like everyone's out about, like hanging out. Like, yeah, it feels good.
I feel like everyone just comes out to see like all the lights and the atmosphere just before winter as well. It's nice.
Well, it's always great to see the lights and especially with this one. He loves seeing new things, so it would be great to show him around.
It's just being a tourist in your own city. That's all I'd say about it.
I guess it's a different way to see Sydney, than like coming on a usual weekend and seeing Circular Quay, having the light show.
The 2024 theme for the festival, Humanity, explores what makes us human and how we can make a better world together. Festival organizers said on their website. According to a government media release, over 3 million people attended the festival in 2023. Held over 23 days, the Vivid Festival will run from the 24th of May till the 15th of June, 2024.